Welcome to our Top 5 Gainers and Top 5 Losers analysis. Today is March 12, 2019, Tuesday. My name is JC De Guzman. I am here to give you an update about my technical analysis and recommendations for today's Top 5 Gainers and Top 5 Losers. For the Top 5 Gainers, I'll be talking about ICT, WLCON, TEL, Aboitiz, AP, PNB. Now for the top 5 losers, I'm going to talk about SMPH, FGEN, Green, PHA, and finally ISM. Okay, so for those who are new subscribers of Equilist Analytics, I would recommend that you check on the short-term trading tab in the evening, preferably after the trading hours, because that's the time that we upload this daily top 5 gainers and top 5 losers analysis of course, for 10 different stocks. This way, you are ready for tomorrow. You will have a data-driven basis coming from an analyst, a data-driven basis for your next action, regardless if you already have a position or you're still planning on whether or not you're going to trade the following stocks. Okay, so let's start with ICT. And in this discussion, apart from checking the chart and the volume analysis, I will also be checking if there are some dividend announcements for these stocks, and I'm going to give some pieces of advice should we see some stock announcements. Okay, for International Container Terminal Services or ICT, it has no dividend announcements yet for 2019. So we will jump right away to the chart. So ICT closed today at 119 pesos. It managed to sustain its ascent above the midterm support at 114 pesos and 30 centavos. Its immediate resistance is now positioned at 121.45. Although today's green candlestick did not register a volume above the 10-day volume average, in fact, today's volume is about 75% of the 10-day volume average only. So if we wish to see ICT breaking out above 121.45, we should see, of course, a far bigger volume than this, preferably above the 10-day volume average. Now, how about the resistance after 121.45? For sure, you'd like to know where is the psychological resistance above 121.45. So it is positioned at 142.70. Okay. Now, should the price break down below the midterm support at 114.27 or 0.30, the acting support will then become 108 pesos and 40 centavos. I like the alignment of the moving averages of ICT because this alignment that we're seeing right now is the picture of a bullish stock. So in this case of ICT, I would say that it is bullish in the short-term and long-term time periods. Now, when it comes to the net foreign trade for 2019 year-to-date, I think ICT is on a net foreign buying mode. Okay, MACD it's still below the signal line. That's why I mentioned a while back that we prefer to see bigger volume so that the price will increase the chance of it breaking out above 121.45. However, I think that even if ICT will break out above 121.45, I don't think that breakout above 121.45 is enough to make the MACD cross above the signal line. Perhaps we have to see the price touch the 123 pesos per share level so that the MACD will start to cross above the signal line. Nonetheless, the downward direction of MACD has already started to bend from the southward direction. Now it's going to the northward direction. So we like what we are seeing right now. We can consider that as a consolation. Okay. Now for the volatility score, I see 42%, and that puts ICT in a low risk state. Okay. Now let's take a look at the volume review for ICT. Remember, ICT closed today at 119 pesos per share. It registered net foreign buying score worth 126 million pesos. Now, how about the range that got the biggest volume and the highest number of trades? Today, 119 pesos per share, which is the closing price, got about 32% of today's volume, followed by 119 pesos and 70 centavos with 19% of today's volume. So if we are to pick a range and not just standalone price points, I am going to pick 118.90 all the way to 119.80. Okay, so again, 118.90 all the way to 119 pesos and 80 centavos. That's the range that got the biggest volume and the highest number of trades today, cumulatively speaking, of course. Meaning to say, if you're going to trade ICT tomorrow, depending on your personal overall assessment, of course, in alignment with what I'm sharing with you right now. So if you're going to trade the name, that's the range that you need to monitor. Now let me talk about my overall sentiment on ICT. I am bullish on ICT. However, I would recommend that you may want to consider raking in your profits or locking in your profits when it hits the resistance at 121.45. On the other hand, if and when it hits 121.45 and you still see a strong buying appetite based on what you see on the bid-ask spread, perhaps you may want to consider still selling some shares to lock in your profits, but do it in tranches. Well, it's up to you if you'd like to sell everything at once or you just sell a few tranches, maybe half of your position in ICT, so that if and when it manages to go up further or higher than 121.45, then the remaining tranches that you have for ICT will benefit from that sustained ascent in price. Okay, so that's my recommendation for ICT. That's the trade setup. If you don't have a position in ICT yet, for newbie traders, I would recommend that you wait for a pullback at least near 114 pesos. But if you are an experienced and a skilled trader already, then it's up to you if you'd like to do a test buy within that range that I've mentioned a while back. But if you're going to ask me if I would do that, if I would test buy right now, my personal sentiment towards ICT is that I would rather wait on buy on pullbacks, preferably near 114 pesos. However, it doesn't mean that I am going to buy some shares right away if and when the share price hits 114 pesos a piece. Of course, I will have to reevaluate the situation to see if there's a big possibility for the price to go down even further or lower than 114 pesos per share. Okay, so I've given you my overall sentiment and recommended trade setups for ICT. Let's now proceed with WLCON. Okay, here you go. Does it have some dividend announcements? Yes, it does. 16 centavos per share. Okay, the ex-dividend date is on March 19. Remember this, if you're going to buy new WLCON shares or additional WLCON shares before March 19, then those shares will qualify for this cash dividend. Now, if you're going to buy on the ex-dividend date itself or after the ex-dividend date, those new WLCON shares will not be counted in this cash dividend. Remember that, okay? Now, if you're going to sell, okay? If you're going to sell before March 19, those WLCON shares will not be included in the computation for cash dividends. On the other hand, if you're going to sell on or after March 19, those WLCON shares are still entitled for the calculation of the cash dividend. You will still receive cash dividend then. Okay? Remember that. Now let's talk about the chart of WLCON. Today WLCON closed at 15 pesos and 70 centavos. Today's green candlestick is accompanied with an impressive volume that is above the 10-day volume average. And obviously we see a positive net foreign as well, amounting to 49 million pesos worth of net foreign buying. Now for 2019 year to date, I would say that it's a net foreign buying state for WLCON as well. I love the, well, let me change the word love because I like the bullishness of the volume the past few in the past 2 weeks. More than a week to be safe. More than a week. Okay, I like the bullish volume for the past for almost 2 weeks. Yes. Now MACD is already bullish, and the volatility score is at 37%, and that puts WLCON on a low risk level. Immediate support is at 14 pesos and 90 centavos. If it breaks down below 14.90, that will make 12.95 as its next support. How about the psychological resistance above 14.90? Or any resistance here? Of course, we can get one by using Fibonacci. So resistance is now positioned at 17.95 pesos. 17 pesos and 95 centavos. Okay. Now let's take a look at the let me make some comments first about the alignment of the moving averages. WLCON is bullish both in the short term and long term period. That sentiment is also being supported by the perfect bullish alignment of the moving averages. Okay. So majority of actually all of the indicators that I see on my screen right now are giving some points to the bulls. Okay. Now let's talk about the volume review for WLCON. Again, WLCON closed today at 15 pesos and 70 centavos. And the range that got the biggest volume and the highest number of trades is between 15.70 all the way to 15.78. Again, 15.70 to 15.78. If you're going to trade the name, make sure that you remember that range that I've given you. My overall sentiment on WLCON is bullish. The ascendant price is clearly supported with the bullish volume as well. Just be on top of your trailing stop loss so that you're not clueless on what to do should things turn to go to the southward direction. Okay? That is if you already have a position on WLCON. But even if you're yet to enter a new position, I would recommend that you calculate your trailing stop loss right at the very start, right off the bat. Okay? Don't just be an expert in buying. Be an expert when it comes to planning where to sell as well. That's important. Okay? Now, what if you don't have a position on WLCON yet? Is it recommended to do a test buy also? You can do that. Okay, you can do that. You can do a test buy. Just make sure that you're going to monitor the range that I've given you. Okay, that's where you need to anticipate the price at least tomorrow in the first 15 to 30 minutes of trading. Okay. So there you go for WLCON. Now let's move on to the next stock. We have PLDT or TEL. Let's find out if it has new dividend announcements, because the last time that I checked it a few days ago, I did not see some dividend announcements yet. But let's see now. Maybe it has some. Who knows? Does it have one? Nope, negative. No cash dividend, no dividend announcements yet for PLDT as of this time of checking. So let's take a look at the chart of PLDT then. PLDT closed at 1,107 pesos today, 1,107 pesos per share. It managed to go up above, it managed to crawl above its 10-day simple moving average, but as far as the alignment of the moving averages is concerned, it's very much bearish. It's bearish in the especially in the long-term scale. Okay, it may be it is moving above the 10 SMA right now, but you know, I prefer to see volume bigger than today's volume. Although we see a green candlestick and the support at 1027 seem to have been respected, what makes me a little bit nervous for PLDT is that its volume is not even above its 10-day volume average. So I'm half-hearted to say that PLDT has already found its support near 1027. There, I can still sense some possibilities, strong possibilities for PLDT to retest the previous support at 1027, given that its volume is still below the 10-day volume average despite the registrations of green candlesticks for the past, nearly 2 weeks, I think. Okay, resistance is at 1125. There's still a possibility for the price to just bounce away once it hits 1125. Yep. So be careful, be watchful on PLDT. I would say that you should be more prudent. Do not hurry, especially if you don't have any position on PLDT yet. Maybe once it bounces away from the resistance at 1125, you may want to position yourself near 1027 or near 1000 pesos or even lower when those opportunities arise. Okay? So apparently, based on what happened in the first week of March, the support at 1027 was respected. So maybe that we never know. We don't know if it will be respected again should the price starts to change its direction. Okay, start to change the direction. Okay, there you go for PLDT. And by the way, its risk level is it's a low risk. It has a low risk level because of its volatility score of 42%. MACD is above the signal line. This is what I'm telling you. I prefer to see not only to see a bigger volume than this, but for the price to break out at least above the 50-day SMA. When that happens, that will increase the you know, our conviction to issue us a buy signal for PLDT, because right now even though the MACD is above the signal line, both lines are moving way below the zero line. So if and when the price breaks out above the 50 SMA, which is above, I think it's above 1178, I think the MACD will then start moving above, not only above the signal line but also above the zero line. Okay, we want to see that if we want to um, if we want PLDT to give us um, a more bullish stance or conviction to trade the name. But until then, I'm not super bullish on PLDT. So I've given you in advance my overall sentiment on PLDT. It's a green candlestick, but I'm not comfortable to give a bullish overall sentiment yet. I would say I'm neutral on PLDT. Now let me make some comments about the net foreign trade. It's a net foreign selling, 2019 year to date. Okay. So how about the price or the range that got the biggest volume and the highest number of trades? I can see it between, remember it closed today at 1,107 pesos a piece. The range that I'm going to give you is between 1,100 all the way to 1,110. Again, 1,100 all the way to 1,110 pesos. Okay, that's the range that got the biggest volume and the highest number of trades. So if you are interested to trade the name, you monitor PLDT within that range. Today's net foreign buying is only a very small amount, relatively small amount, worth the 9 million pesos. Okay, so I've given you my overall sentiment in advance, and I also um, shared some tips on what you should do. I told you a while back not to hurry, wait for some pullbacks near 1027. Okay. Now let's take a look at AP. Okay, we have Aboitiz Power Corporation. Um, I'm interested to see if it has some dividend announcements. PLDT does not have one yet. Okay, how about AP? Oh yeah, it does have. Didn't I already discuss AP in the past? Oh yeah, I did. Last February 27 and March 6. That's why I think it's a deja vu for me. It feels like a deja vu to see these dividend announcements. But anyway, for an added information, there's a 1 peso and 47 centavo cash dividend with the next dividend date of March 18, 2019. Again, if you will buy before March 18, then those dividend shares are are qualified to be counted in this cash dividend. Now, every single AP shares that you will buy on or after March 18, those will not be counted anymore for the cash dividend. So that's for the buying side of the story. How about the selling side of the story? Here you go. Don't be too excited. Okay, if you're going to sell AP, assuming you have some, if you're going to sell AP before March 19, those AP shares will not be counted for the cash dividend. However, if you will sell your AP shares either on or after March 18, then those shares are still entitled to receive cash dividend. Okay? Keep on replaying that part if you didn't quite get what I said for the on, before, and after scenarios for the buyers and sellers. Okay? Now let's talk about the chart of AP. AP closed today at 35 pesos per share. Support is at 33.65. Resistance is at 39.30. 39.30. The price managed to just close a little bit higher than its 10-day simple moving average, but it's not completely out of the woods yet for one reason. It's a groggy alignment. I can see a groggy alignment of the 10-day of the moving averages. 50-day SMA is above the 200-day SMA. The 200-day SMA is above the 10-day SMA. So I prefer, if for those who have AP shares, what you prefer to see here is a breakout above 36 pesos per share. That's the intersection of these three simple moving averages. Okay, when that happens, I think the 10 SMA will start to reposition itself above the 50 SMA, the red line. Okay, so once you have the shorter term SMAs hovering above the longer term ones, then that's a a sign that your stock has already repositioned itself in the bullish position, for sure in the long term time scale, and probably in the short term period as well. Okay, today's volume is above the 10-day volume average. Okay, that's another point for the bulls. So there's a possibility for this green candlestick to duplicate itself, okay, by the next trading day. Meaning to say we might see another green candlestick because today's ascent and price was supported with a bullish volume. How about the 2019 year-to-date net foreign trade? I think it's a net foreign selling. Okay, it's a net foreign selling for AP 2019 year-to-date. MACD is still below the signal line. Okay, um, what I the comment that I gave you a while back when I said that those who have AP stock would wish to see the price moving above the 36 pesos per share. When that happens, MACD will have uh, cross will then cross above the signal line. Okay, so that's what should happen if you would like to see MACD moving above the signal line. Okay, AP must break out above 36 pesos per share. That's not the resistance, that's just the intersection of these three moving averages. AP has a low risk level with the volatility score of 38%. Okay, now let's take a look at the volume review for AP. Reminder, it closed today at 35 pesos per share. and it registered a net foreign buying worth only about 5.5 million pesos. How about the range that got the biggest volume? Okay, I've noticed something here that the price at 34.30 got about 53% of today's volume, but with only 65 trades. 65. Okay, that's 34.30. That's the price point. It got 53% of today's volume. The next one is 35 pesos per share, garnering about 18% of today's volume with 97 trades. Here's my suggestion. If you are to trade the AP, okay, watch out for 35 pesos per share first. But if it's going to be a weak start for AP tomorrow, let's say at 35 or below 35 pesos, I would suggest you adjust your waiting price point right away to what? To 34.30. Again, 34.30. Okay? So there you go for AP. By the way, I would like to mention it's VWAP. It's at 34.51. Okay. If you're going to Google about VWAP, you would see on Investopedia, it's being defined as the price point that has no noise. It has no noise in that level already. Okay, meaning to say it's the not the average actually, but the yeah, it's the average in some sort. Volume weighted average price point. Okay, so 34.50. I've been mentioning this over and over again in my other videos that mutual fund managers they actually buy on the VWAP. Okay, because for them that's the quote unquote safest price that has no noise. That's the average of the day. Okay, I'm just giving some hints or tips. My overall sentiment on AP is neutral to bullish. Why neutral? There are still some reservations in my mind because I prefer to see AP crossing above the 36 line because when that happens, maybe I would see the MACD line crossing above the signal line. When that happens, I think I'm going to remove the neutral in my overall sentiment and make it a completely bullish sentiment for AP. But that's it for now. Now, if you don't have AP yet, what's my recommendation? You can do some test buy. In fairness, it managed to respect the support at 33.65. Okay, you can do a test buy. Now, what if you already have AP? Should you hold or buy more shares? You can actually you can do both. Okay, it's just a matter of choice, personal choice, based on your personal risk tolerance, of course. If you will hold your position, make sure that you are on top of your trailing stop loss. Okay. Now, if your average price is lower than the current price of 35, then that means congratulations. I think you were able to buy when it was below 33.65 sometime in November last year. Okay. Make sure also that you are on top of your trailing stop loss so that you don't miss those opportunities. If you bought sometime in November, you should have already sold your position when the price went below 37 or maybe at yeah 37. You should have already locked in your profits. Okay. All right. So that's it for AP. Let's see. Okay, last stock in the top 5 gainers list we have PNB. Okay, let me check if PNB has dividend announcements. Okay, no dividend announcements yet for PNB. Today PNB closed at 61 pesos and 40 centavos. Let me show you the resistance. The resistance is now at 64.95. You can make that 65 pesos if you'd like to round it up. Support is at 43.30. Okay. Now today's green candlestick is supported by a green volume, of course. However, today's volume did not manage to overtake the 10-day volume average. So if we would like to see PNB continuing its movement above the 59.70 level, or above, yeah, above the 59.70 level, it should start giving us daily volumes above its 10-day volume average. Okay, for this ascent in price to be, more likely to be continued, more likely. Okay. How about the net foreign trade for 2019? It's a net foreign buying. Okay. MACD is also above the signal line. It's signs of bullishness. Here's my recommendation for you based on what I'm seeing on PNB. If you sold your position near 60 pesos, that's not bad. That's not bad. Now that it's moving above the 60 level, I consider this one as bonus only, as a bonus. Okay. Now, if it managed to get closer to 64.95 or 65, you may want to consider selling at that level as well. Okay. Two ways. It's either you sell on once it hits the resistance levels, or you follow your trailing stop loss wherever it is, depending on what your percentage of risk tolerance is. Okay. Now, if you don't have a position yet, if you are a relatively newbie trader, please wait for some pullbacks. Wait for the price to go below the 60 level. Okay, wait for some pullbacks. Or if you're really that risky, you may want to do a test buy now, but just be very careful because uh, the percentage of chance of translating its position right now as a profit taking level is actually pretty high. Okay, it's possible for the traders to lock in their profits tomorrow near 61, within that level, 60 to 62. Okay, so prudence is recommended. Okay. Besides, PNB already has a moderate risk level because of its volatility score of 65%. Okay, MACD is way too bullish already. Okay, I can sense some signs of bullish exhaustion. Okay, bullish exhaustion. So there you go. Be careful on PNB. Okay. Now let's. My overall sentiment, by the way, is bullish on PNB. Now, not because I'm bullish on PNB, it doesn't mean that it will do nothing but register green candlesticks every day forever. Okay? Uh, Take note of the last thing that I mentioned a while back. I can sense some signs of exhaustion on PNB just by looking at its MACD. Okay? Now, let's move on to the top 5 losers list. The first one in the list is, okay, by the way, I think I haven't mentioned yet the volume review for PNB. Okay, let's tackle that first before we move on to SMPH. Remember, PNB closed today at 61.40, the range that got the biggest volume. Well, let's talk about price points. I think individual price points are more dominant in this case. 61.25 got 23% of today's volume with 113 trades. 61 pesos got 21% of today's volume with 137 trades. Which one? Who else? 61.40, the closing price, got 11% of today's volume with 118 trades. So my recommendation is to monitor 3 different price points. Of course, first would be 61.40. If PNB starts tomorrow at or below 61.40, I would suggest you monitor 61.25. You adjust your position at 61.25. When I say adjust your position, I'm referring to those who would like to do a test buy. Okay, just be clear. Now, if PNB will start tomorrow even lower than 61.25, I would suggest that you monitor this stock at 61. Okay, so that's the hierarchy, the order or sequence of priority in terms of monitoring. Okay, all right. Now let's move on to SMPH. SMPH, let me check if it has some dividend announcements. SM Prime Holdings does not have new dividend announcements yet for 2019. Okay, now SMPH closed at 36.70. It is now moving below its 50-day and 10-day moving averages. If it breaks down below 36.6, okay, just 10 centavos away from there, from its closing price today. If it breaks down below 36.6, then that will make SMPH bearish not only in the short-term scale but also in the long-term time horizon. Okay. Today's descent in price was supported with the bearish volume that's above the 10-day volume average, meaning to say investors of SMPH really joined the selling sentiment of the majority today. Okay, today it's a net foreign selling worth 268 million pesos. MACD has been trending inside the bearish channel since when? Since the 3rd week of January 2019. Okay. See this pattern here. My confirmed buy signal happened last November 19, 2018. Here, MACD crossed above the signal line, and then after that, that's the time when the price rose above the 10-day SMA, and then it continues to go up, 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 and then it slid here. Now, if assuming you implement a risk tolerance of 5%, let's say you are just trading SMPH, if your risk percentage is only at 5%, then you should have already sold your position when the price hits 38 pesos. Yeah, 38 pesos. Okay. Now, SMPH has a low risk level because of its volatility score of 37%. Okay. Later on, we're going to talk about my overall sentiment on SMPH. Okay. Now let's take a look at the volume review for SMPH. Remember today SMPH closed at 36.70 and that happens to be its intraday low. Okay, its closing price is also its intraday low. Let that sink in for a moment. Okay, today's price that got the biggest volume is 36.70. It got nearly 50%, half of today's volume. Okay, in other words, half of today's volume was printed at 36.70, the closing price and the intraday low. And how many trades? 333. Not the biggest trade, but it's the biggest volume. Okay, so there you go. So what do I suggest here? What do I suggest? First, my overall sentiment is bearish. I suggest that you wait near 35.40. Okay, if you have a position, you know the drill. Where is your trailing stop loss? Once it gets hit, you sell. At once or in tranches, it's up to you. Okay, it's up to you. For those who don't have a position yet on SMPH, you wait near 35.4. Okay, 35.4. Alright, now let's move on to FGEN. Okay, First Gen Corporation. Now let's check if it has some dividend announcements. FGEN, does it have dividend announcements for 2019? No, zero. Let's talk about a chart. FGEN closed today at 20.70. Before I move forward, let me check first if I already discussed this in the past. Oh yeah, I did just yesterday. That's why it sounds familiar to me. Okay, looks familiar to me. It was in the net. It was a top loser as well yesterday. Okay. Yesterday I told you that the red candlestick was supported with the red volume above the 30-day, above its 10-day volume average, and I think I also mentioned to you that I have been already bearish on FGEN since I analyzed it yesterday, and it continued its being bearish today as well. Take note, today's bearish volume is way higher than yesterday's volume, so meaning to say, FGEN investors or traders were so convinced today to sell their position on FGEN. Okay? While FGEN is still bullish in the long term, it's already bearish in the short and mid term. How did I know? The price is already moving below the 10 SMA and 50 SMA. As simple as that. And to add more pain to the wound, MACD has already registered a death cross, meaning to say it already crossed below, below, okay? Not above the signal line, okay? And its volume average, no, not volume average, but historical volatility is already at 42%. Still, it puts FGEN in a low risk level, but I don't think it's the right time. It's the perfect time. It's the right time to buy, to hurry. So don't hurry on FGEN. Okay, my overall sentiment is still bearish. I suggest that you wait for the stock to inch closer to 19.40. But don't automatically buy if and when it hits 19.40. You have to reassess, reevaluate the situation. Okay, you reevaluate. Why do you need to reevaluate? For you to see if there's still a chance for the price to go lower than 19.4. Okay, because the support below 19.4 is 17 pesos 17 pesos already. That's the support level below 19.4. Resistance is at 22.5. All right. So let's talk about the volume review. Again, it closed today at 20.70. Okay. Now, today's foreign trade is actually net foreign selling worth 45 million. Oh, I forgot to mention the year-to-date net foreign trade. Let's see. It's still net foreign buying. Okay, it's net foreign buying for 2019 year-to-date. But I'm bearish. That's my overall sentiment already. Okay. Now let me give you the range that got the biggest volume and the highest number of trades. I see 20.70 all the way to 21. Okay, 20.70 to 21. That's the range that got the biggest volume and the highest number of trades. But I suggest that you wait. Where? You wait near 19.40. Okay, you wait there. Now let's move on to the next stock. We have green. I think I've discussed this stock a lot of times already in the past episodes of the top 5 gainers and top 5 losers. Let me verify that. Green. Oh, there you go. This is the 5th time that I'm going to talk about green in my daily videos. Okay. So it's going to be like a deja vu discussion for green. I'm sure this does not have, it doesn't have any dividend announcements yet for 2019. Green closed today at 2.65. It already break down below the support at 2.90. So therefore, that 2.90, the previous resistance is now, the previous support rather, is now acting as its immediate resistance. The new support is now at, the new support is actually at 1.90. This 2.34 line that you see here is the midterm support. But what I consider major support is 1.90. Green is bearish already in the short term to mid-term time period. Okay, MACD is bearish, and that's an understatement. Okay, today's bearish red candlestick supported with the red volume above the 10-day volume average. So volume isn't that high. It isn't that high, but I think this is its norm. This is the normal level of the daily volume of green. Okay. For one, what's the total traded value for green today? I think there's a liquidity issue in this stock. Let me check first. Total value 85 million. It's not a low. It's not a volatile. Yeah, it's not a volatility, it's not a liquidity issue. Did I see? Oh yeah, 86 million pesos. But this is the normal level. So it's more likely for the bearish direction to continue all the way to 2.34. There's a possibility for this midterm support at 2.34 to be retested. Okay. Green has, take a note of this. Green has a high risk level because of its volatility score of 94%. Even when it becomes if it goes above 100%, I'm referring to the volatility score, okay? If the volatility score goes above 100%, then that will make green an extremely high risk stock. Not just a high risk, but an extremely high risk stock, okay? Let's talk about the volume review for green. Remember, green closed today at 2.65. The range or the price point that got the biggest volume is 2.65 as well. It's intraday low too. That price got 27% of today's volume with 388 trades, the highest, obviously. Okay, so really, since I have an overall sentiment of bearish on green, I suggest that you monitor it near or at 2.34. If it touches 2.34 and the bearish volume is still above the 10-day volume average, then you adjust right away to 1.90. That's where you have to wait and monitor. Okay, so that's it for green. Now let's talk about PHA. I know, I also talk about PHA a lot of times in my previous videos. Let me confirm that. Not a lot of times, but the second time today. Yesterday, not yesterday, but last February 27, it was already in the top losers list. Okay. PHA, does it have some dividend announcements? No, not yet. Okay. What's the total traded value for PHA today? It's just 41 million. Anyway, PHA closed today at 1.22. Bad news, it already break down below its support at 1.26 and that now acts as its immediate resistance. The new support is now at 0.86. PHA went back to the bearish um, status below the 10-day simple moving average. But you know what? PHA's MACD has been bearish since when? Since the second or third week of February. Okay. MACD already crossed below the signal line last February 11. Okay. Now here's the thing. How about the net foreign trade for 2019 year to date? It's a net foreign selling. Okay. PHA has a volatility score of 43% and that gives it a low risk level. Okay. Today's volume is above, slightly above or almost equal to its 10-day volume average. So I'm still bearish on PHA because it already broke down. It already broke below the what seemed to be a strong support at 1.26. So for how since since February 2019, PHA kept on trying to stay afloat above the previous support at 1.26, but it did not manage to keep its position above that level, unfortunately. Again, PHA closed today at 1.22. Let's talk about the volume review. It's I see a pretty good sense of balance between the distribution of volume today. So the range that got the biggest volume is between 1.22 to 1.29. Since the intraday low, which is the closing price as well, makes it to the qualifies to the range that got the biggest volume, then I would really suggest that do not hurry on PHA yet. Wait for some pullbacks, preferably near 0.86. Okay, my overall sentiment is bearish. That's my trade setup. I've given it to you already. Okay. How about those who bought PHA? Did anyone Did any of the Equilist Analytics subscribers buy PHA at 1.72? I hope there's none. Okay. If, if there's one or two, make sure that you know where your trailing stop loss is. Okay. So you don't live a stressful life not knowing what to do. Okay, on PHA. Okay, last but not the least, ISM. Okay, did I already talk about ISM before? Yeah, I did. February 18, March 11, just yesterday. Yesterday, ISM was already in the top 5 losers list. Okay. Does it have new dividend announcements for 2019? Let me check. No? Zero. So today ISM closed at 5.28 per share. It's already bearish in the short term and mid-term scale. And support is at 5.21, resistance is at 6.83. If you're watching this video, obviously it's much closer to breaking down below 5.21 than, of course, breaking out above 6.83. So today's volume is also above its 10-day volume average. How about its a total traded value for today? How much was it? 32 million, nearly 32 million pesos total traded value. But just like the chart of PHA, ISM's MACD has been bearish since February 13. PHA's MACD has been bearish since February 11, if my memory serves me right. So here, in the case of ISM, its MACD has been bearish since February 13 already. Okay. It's obviously moving inside the downtrend channel. I just didn't draw a downtrend channel, but it's obviously in a downtrend channel. Okay. How about the net foreign trade? It's net foreign selling. Okay. ISM has a volatility score of 24%. That gives it a low risk level. Okay. My overall sentiment as early as now, I can give that to you. I'm bearish on ISM. Try to wait for some pullbacks near 3.61. But mind you, within this week, if the price stays above or respects the support at 5.21, and if the traders would translate this price level as a reversal zone, then there's still a possibility for the price to pick back up, and then the traders will just trade the range. Which range am I pertaining to? I'm pertaining to the range between 5.21 to 6.83, because that's the range that has been played since when? Since November last year. Okay, so monitor the price near 5.21. If and when it touches 5.21 and volume is still high, then that means ISM traders think that 5.21 is not the reversal zone yet. Okay. Now let's talk about the volume review of ISM. Remember, it closed today at 5.28. Now the range that got the biggest volume, the highest number of trades, is between 5.28 all the way to 5.37. Again, 5.28 to 5.37. Okay. So if you're going to trade ISM, I already mentioned it to you, monitor it near 5.21. If you see a bigger volume formation, even when it hits 5.21 already, meaning to say traders are looking for a cheaper price, cheaper than 5.21. Okay. Alright, so you've heard me discuss my technical analysis, overall sentiment, and trade setups for today's top 5 gainers and top 5 losers analysis. As a recap, I gave you my thoughts about ICT, WLCON, TEL, AP, PNB, SMPH, FGEN, Green, PHA, and ISM. Okay, if you have some questions, feel free to post in our private clients forum. Okay, thank you. And my name is JC De Guzman from Equilist Analytics. Thank you and have a great day.